To meet her lover, Connie quietly leaves the house, completely unaware that her husband has already started to suspect something is wrong. Edward notices a revealing dress left on the chair, and he sees his wife fully dressed up with her makeup done. He casually suggests going out for dinner later, but Connie refuses almost instantly, claiming she has an appointment at a beauty salon. Something about her reaction feels off. Edward catches the nervous look on her face and begins to sense that she is lying again. To be sure, he calls the salon, only to find out that Connie never had any appointment that day. In that moment, everything becomes clear to him. His wife has already betrayed their marriage. In that moment, everything he thought he knew is gone. This is unfaithful.
What did you do?
Determined to confirm it, Edward hires a private detective named Frank to follow her.
I need someone I can trust. I want you to follow somebody.
Meanwhile, Connie remains completely unaware. She is still caught up in the excitement of her relationship with Paul. Later during dinner, Edward mentions that he has to leave for a week on a business trip.
I have to go to Chicago tomorrow.
For how long?
Not long, just tonight.
What time's your flight?
But in reality, he plans to return earlier than expected, hoping to catch her in the act. And just as he predicted, the moment Edward is gone, Connie wastes no time. She quickly gets ready and rushes out to meet Paul. What she does not realize is that every moment they spend together, every laugh they share on the street, is being secretly captured by the detective. Not long after, that dreamlike feeling suddenly fades. Connie remembers that she was supposed to pick up her son, Charlie, from school. When she finally arrives, the boy has been waiting there alone for 3 hours. The guilt hits her immediately. She begins to realize that she cannot keep living like this. Determined to end things, Connie decides to go to Paul's place and break up with him face to face. But the moment she arrives, everything falls apart. She sees Paul embracing another woman, young and beautiful, as if nothing ever mattered. In an instant, her guilt turns into pure anger. She cannot believe that Paul has also been unfaithful. Driven by emotion, Connie follows them into a library where she watches the two of them, acting close and affectionate. At that point, she completely loses control. She rushes toward the woman, ready to confront her.
Wait!
But before things go any further, Paul pulls Connie away and drags her out of the library. And despite everything that just happened, the two of them end up falling right back into the same toxic relationship. In truth, Connie and Paul's relationship begins completely by accident. One day, after finishing her shopping, a strong gust of wind suddenly blows through the street and causes Connie to collide with a young man named Paul, a book collector. Their belongings scatter everywhere. Paul helps gather the items that were blown away, while Connie picks up the books that fell from his hands. Eager to get home, Connie struggles to find a taxi. She asks Paul for help, but none of the passing taxis stop. When Paul notices a small injury on her knee, he offers to let her come to his apartment so he can treat it. At that exact moment, a taxi actually passes by, but for some reason, Connie chooses to accept Paul's offer instead. Once they arrive, Paul tells her to use the bathroom where she can find some medicine. It becomes clear that he has been paying close attention to her from the start. He even gently places an ice pack on her knee, showing a level of care that catches Connie off guard. She quickly realizes that his interest in her is more than just kindness. The situation makes her uncomfortable, so she keeps her distance and decides to leave. Before she goes, Paul asks her to take a book with her. The next day, after Edward and Charlie leave the house, Connie looks through the book and finds a business card hidden inside. Curious, she calls Paul to ask for his address, planning to send him a bottle of wine as a thank you. Instead, Paul invites her to come over for coffee. At first, Connie hesitates, but eventually she agrees. She heads to his apartment where Paul is already waiting for her. While he prepares the coffee, Connie notices a Braille book on the table. Without hesitation, Paul takes her hand and guides her fingers across the pages as he reads. That moment creates a quiet connection between them. But just as things begin to shift, Connie suddenly pulls herself back and decides to leave. After that, she visits Edward at his office and brings him a gift. Edward is surprised and confused, sensing that something feels different, even if he cannot explain it yet. Later at home, he notices Connie behaving in a way he has not seen before. She seems distracted, lost in her thoughts, smiling to herself while doing simple chores. It feels unusual, but he chooses to say nothing. The following day, Connie returns to Paul's apartment. This time, there is no awkward distance between them. Paul invites her to dance, and Connie lets herself be carried away by the soft rhythm of the music. In that moment, she stops holding back, and the two of them finally cross the line, beginning an affair that will change everything. On her way home, Connie feels completely swept up in emotion, smiling to herself as she replays the moments she just shared with Paul. As the days pass, Edward begins to notice the change in her behavior. She often seems distracted, lost in her own thoughts, smiling for no clear reason like someone who has fallen in love. At one point, Connie takes a glass snow globe that Edward once gave her and decides to give it to Paul as a gift. Not long after, Edward's suspicions are confirmed by the evidence gathered by the detective. With everything now clear, Edward decides to confront Paul directly. When he arrives, Paul welcomes him in calmly. Edward wastes no time and asks how the relationship with Connie began. He listens as Paul explains that it all happened by chance. But when Edward learns that Paul knew all along that Connie was married and had a child, his emotions begin to boil. Inside the apartment, Edward notices the messy bed, and the reality of what has been happening becomes impossible to ignore. Then his eyes land on something familiar, the glass snow globe. He realizes immediately where it came from. Hearing that it was a gift from Connie pushes him over the edge. That object was something he had given her with love, and now it has been passed on to another man. In a moment of uncontrollable rage, Edward grabs the snow globe and strikes Paul with it. The impact is fatal, and Paul collapses instantly. To Edward, this feels like justice for the destruction of his family. But the reality quickly sets in. He has just taken a life. Without hesitation, Edward begins covering his tracks. He wipes away his fingerprints, wraps the body, and cleans every trace of blood from the floor. At the same time, Paul's phone receives a voice message from Connie, explaining that she wants to end their relationship because she knows she has made a terrible mistake.
I have to end this. I can't do it anymore.
Edward places Paul's body in the trunk of his car and drives to Charlie's school, where Connie is already waiting to watch their son perform. Before joining her, he cleans himself up. When he sits beside Connie, she holds his hand tightly. In that quiet moment, Edward can feel her sincerity and the weight of her regret. He responds by holding her close. Later, after bringing Charlie home, Edward drives to a remote dumping site. He takes Paul's body out of the trunk and buries it among the piles of waste. Afterward, he carefully washes his car, making sure no evidence remains before returning home. A few days pass and life seems to slowly return to normal. But that calm does not last. 2 police officers arrive at their home, asking Connie about a man named Paul who has been reported missing.
Do you know a Paul Martell?
Not very well. Why?
Do you know where he is?
At home, I would imagine.
Do you know where he lives?
Soho, isn't it?
They explain that her phone number was found in his apartment. Hearing this, Connie is immediately overwhelmed with panic and confusion, knowing that the truth is getting dangerously close to the surface. A few days later, the same officers return to continue their investigation, and this time Edward is there as well. They bring shocking news. Paul has been found dead. Now the questions become more serious. Connie tries to stay calm, claiming she does not remember the last time she saw him, and insisting she never went to his apartment. But one of the officers points out something troubling. About 4 weeks earlier, her parking ticket was found right outside Paul's building. In an instant, panic sets in. Connie begins to fear that her affair will finally be exposed, not just to the police, but to Edward. With no other choice, she lies, trying to protect herself in front of both her husband and the investigators. Edward notices her growing anxiety and quickly asks the officers to leave. Once they are gone, Connie breaks down in tears. Later, while doing laundry, she makes a discovery that changes everything. Inside Edward's jacket pocket, she finds photographs of herself with Paul. At that moment, she realizes the truth. Edward has known about the affair all along. When she returns home, Edward is busy preparing for guests arriving that evening. He acts normal on the surface, but there is a quiet tension in him. He is waiting, wondering how long Connie will stay silent. During the gathering, Connie notices something that stops her cold. The glass snow globe she once gave to Paul is now back in their home. She looks at Edward, and in that moment, the realization hits her. He may be the one who killed Paul. After the guests leave, Connie finally confronts him. Edward, who has been holding everything in, lets his emotions pour out.
Talk to me. Tell me what you did.
You did. You fucked him over and over and over. You lied to me. No, you don't talk to me now.
The pain he has carried since discovering her betrayal finally surfaces. He feels that everything he has built for their family has been thrown away so easily. Connie can only stand there, overwhelmed, unable to respond. She breaks down in tears while Edward continues to release the weight of his heartbreak. When his emotions begin to settle, he steps closer, but Connie pulls away, unable to face him. The next day, Connie looks through their family photo album, and for the first time, she truly sees what she already had: a complete family, a life without real flaws. As she holds the snow globe, she accidentally opens its base and discovers a small note hidden inside. It is a message Edward wrote years ago, filled with love, from a time when their son was still just a baby. That realization hits her deeply. Edward sees the regret in her eyes. When they look at each other, there is still something there. Something real. Despite everything, he chooses to open the door to forgiveness. Connie promises to end it all and leave the past behind. She wishes she could go back to that moment outside Paul's apartment, when a taxi passed by. She imagines what would have happened if she had simply gotten into that taxi and walked away. Maybe no one would have been hurt, and Paul would still be alive. Later, Edward finds her crying by the fireplace and holds her. Not long after, he stops the car in front of a police station, ready to turn himself in. But Connie pleads with him to reconsider. She believes they can still move forward, start over, leave everything behind, and build a new life somewhere far away with new identities. And that is where the story comes to an end. So the moral of the story is, if a random hot book guy offers you coffee, just take the taxi instead, because it is way cheaper than murder, detectives, and emotional damage.